Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Friday Live on this Friday, the 1st of November. Fiona Lukeis here coming to you live. It is live, I am live on YouTube and Facebook currently. So for anyone who is tuning in, feel free to say hi, let me know where you're listening from. I know many of you obviously in Canada and the US have been celebrating Halloween. So I hope all the trick-or-treating has been going well and the sugar rush from all the candy that's been consumed is not too intense with the children. It is a gorgeous day here in Melbourne. And as some of you may have realised, I wasn't able to be here live last week. I was travelling with my husband. It was our 20th wedding anniversary last week. And so we travelled to the centre of Australia to Uluru, otherwise known as Ayers Rock, Katatua, otherwise known as the Olgas, and to a place called Kings Canyon. So we were there for all of last week and had an amazing time. So I wasn't live with you last week, but here I am back, fresh as a daisy, ready to answer any questions that you have and to be of service wherever possible. For those of you who are new to me or my work, like I said earlier, I'm live currently on Facebook and YouTube. So yeah, if you are tuning in, let me know which one you're listening from and where you are in the world. And for those of you celebrating Halloween, happy Halloween. So as you guys know, every time I go live every time I go live on these live streams on Facebook and YouTube, I'm generally drawing on, things that have happened in my private client work or questions that have been asked or discussions really that have been asked with my relatable students during the week. So I've got a few things that I want to talk about. And as always, I'm answering your questions. Okay, that's the primary reason here is for you to be able to send your question to me or post it in the comments below, and I will answer it for you. So I'm just giving some time for the notification to go out that I'm live. Like I said, I know many of you are either still trick-or-treating or back from trick-or-treating and dealing with the sugar rush that comes from that. Halloween is nowhere near as big here in Australia as it is for you guys over there. It's definitely not a culture of ours, but it's definitely catching on here. Okay, so I'm going to bring up the question. The questions have been sent in to me most recently. So let me just bring those up now. Live. Okay, here they are. So, all right, so there's a couple of questions here that I'm going to start off with. Sorry, guys, my assistant's not here today, and things aren't as organized as they could be. Okay. So there's a question here that that has come in recently, and this is someone sent this through saying, "Hi Fiona, I've just stumbled across your book while doom scrolling during the night following a relationship breakdown with a man that I love. My main issue is that I become resentful of his time spent working on himself as I'm not given the same in return. It doesn't help that no one else understands our dynamics, so then I feel external pressure for this reason too. He has moved out of the family home, and even if we can't move forward together, I would still love to have a healthy relationship for our son." Okay. All right, great question. Thanks for sending that in. So I guess where I would start with this is, and I actually have recorded a whole module on this in my Relatable program. It's actually one of the bonus. It's actually a bonus module that I've created in my Relatable program. It's called Dealing with Expectations, and the title of it is Expectations: Why They Are the Silent Killers of Relationships, because they really are. All right. So, and I think, we can get so caught up in what looks like the truth of something. And I'm not trying to dismiss how this person feels at all, but I just want to have a conversation about, expectations, and I'm going to come back to this question, all right? Because expectations are a huge issue in relationships. They really are. So, when we don't understand what an expectation is, when we don't understand where they come from, how they're created, all of those things, when we don't understand that, and I really think for many of us, we don't, because expectations look like truth. And anything that looks like a truth is something that causes us to lose our way, right? Because there are very few things that are true in the world. Now, I know that's a challenging thing for people to hear, but really there are. And I want you to think about this. A truth is something that applies to everybody all of the time. Otherwise, it's an opinion, an idea, a judgment. And I'm not saying that those things are right or wrong, or you can't have an opinion, or you can't have an idea, or you can't have a judgment, right? I'm not saying that you can't have those things. But what I will say is, if we don't know the difference between an opinion and truth, if we don't know the difference, we will never question our thinking. We will never question something. And we should always be questioning something that takes us down a pathway that causes suffering, judgment, or upset. And when I say question, I mean in a healthy way. I don't mean in an analytical, fearful, worried way, but I mean in a way where we're actually looking at something and saying, okay, is this actually true? Just because I've thought this way for a long time, and again, the amount of time you've felt about something isn't necessarily, and notice I say the word necessarily, an indicator of truth. But we have to be able to know the difference between those two things on a fundamental level, okay? So let's just talk about that for a second. A truth, right? If we're thinking about something in terms of a truth, and we're thinking about a truth being something that applies to everybody all of the time, okay? You think about it. So it's not based on gender. It's not based on culture. It's not based on religion. It's not based on any of those things. It's just, this is just a constant. Right? So a truth is something that's like a constant. So it doesn't matter who looks at it, who is experiencing it. It's a constant. And so a great example of that, and there's one of many, but a great example of that would be gravity. Okay, that's kind of the most commonly, it's the most common one that I tend to utilize or think of. Gravity is a truth. Gravity works the same way for everybody all of the time, irrespective of the person. Okay, so I've got this pen here. This is a great example. Whoever drops this pen, the pen will fall. Doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman or the King of England or the President of the US or whoever, right? Doesn't matter. This pen, if I let go of this pen or you let go of this pen will fall. So gravity operates the same way for everybody. Okay. Now, this is a very, 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 very important thing for people to understand, because you have to know the difference between a truth and you have to know the difference between an opinion, because opinions are fluid and flexible and can be challenged in a healthy way, not in a gaslighting way, not in a dismissive way, but in a healthy way. A truth is something that's just a truth. And so it just becomes something that you come back to. Does that make sense? And go, okay, this is the way things are. All right. And you can start to see the difference between what is something that is your opinion or your idea. And when we know this, it's what gives us flexibility and stops us being so rigid. Okay. People who are very rigid struggle in relationships. And again, I'm not saying this person is being rigid either. All right. I just wanted to make that, create that definition straight away. Hi, Dan. Thanks for staying hi. I love Washington State. It's a beautiful part of the US. I've been there many times. Beautiful, beautiful part of the world. So thank you so much for saying hi. And anyone else who's listening who wants to say hi, please feel free to comment below, and I'd love to know where you're listening from. So it's very, very important to know the difference between a truth and an opinion or an idea. One is fluid, as in one can be looked at, examined, potentially changed. And a truth is just something that we come back to a knowingness of. All right. So if I come back to the question that's been asked, I'm going to read it out again because we just had a few more people join us. So I'm going to come back to the question that's been asked. Hi, Fiona. I just stumbled across your book while doom scrolling through the night following a relationship breakdown with a man I love. My main issue is that I become resentful of his time spent working on himself as I'm not given the same in return. It doesn't help that no one else understands our dynamics, so then I feel external pressure for this reason too. He's moved out of the family home, and even if we can't move forward together, I would still love to have a healthy relationship for our son. So, first of all, I think this is a great question. And I also think good for you that you want to have a healthy relationship for your son. I just think that is so important. When you're clear about things like that, that's what enables us to get over ourselves, to put stuff down for the sake of the greater good, right? And then generate something completely different, because human beings are far more powerful than we ever possibly understand. Hi, Jane. Hello, darling. Thanks for saying hi. Hi, Brian. Always lovely to hear from you. You know that. Hi, Rosalind. Nice to have you here. Thanks for saying hi. And anybody else, really appreciate it if you drop me a line and let me know where you're listening from. Oh, Giovanna. Hi, darling. Hello. It's nice to see you here. So lovely to see you here. Thank you, everybody. And if you have a question, pop it in the comments below. Or if you have a question about what I am saying, pop it in the comments below. Okay, so I'm just talking about the difference between a truth and an expectation, okay, or a truth and an opinion or an idea. This is I cannot tell you how important this is to know, especially in any aspect of life, but especially in how we navigate our relationships and our emotions. Because when we see an opinion or an idea as a truth, we get so locked into it, we become rigid and inflexible. And when we become rigid and inflexible, we just go round and round. This is how you end up having what I would call relationship Groundhog Day. We just seem to keep covering the same ground, going around the same way, covering the same thing, and not actually getting anywhere different. All right, coming back to the same point, coming back to the same place. And of course, the more you go around the same thing and the outcome doesn't change, the more dissatisfied you feel. And the more you start thinking about how different you are, how you don't have enough in common, you start what I would call evidence gathering all the reasons why that's true. And that just dives a deeper and deeper wedge. Now, and then it looks like the only reason we can move forward is if the other person were different, right? If the other person would change. It looks like that's the only option you've got. And so this is why people can end up in a situation like this lovely person where the relationship is broken down with someone they love, okay? The relationship is broken down with someone they love. And I know how painful that is. That's incredibly painful. I cannot believe, like I said, my husband and I just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary last week. We had the best time. We really did. But I can tell you, when we were 6.5 years married, prior to me coming across the understanding that I teach, which has become my life's work, which has become everything, we were on the verge of divorce, and very much based on, the question that's come through from this person, it was very much like that. I had an expectation around things. He had expectations of things. We were locked into our differences. It looked like we didn't have enough in common. And even though I loved my husband, I could not see a way forward. So you get to that point where you're so sick of feeling so separate. You're so sick of arguing over the same thing and coming back to the same place. You're so sick of nothing changing that it looks like the only option is to separate. And I see so many great relationships fall down at that hurdle. I see so many people go through that painful thing. And I'm just so grateful that I came across something that turned that completely on its head, so that, some 14 years later now, my husband and I are doing great. And when I say great, I'm not like, we are in a state of feeling with one another, a state of connection that's just as good, if not better, than when we met. And that is, it is 100% true. It's just as good, if not better, than when we met all of those years ago. And when we met, we had one of those moments which I'd not experienced to that depth before, or that level before, about where the chemistry was off the charts. It really took us both by surprise. Neither of us were even looking for a relationship. It was just one of those chance freak things, right? And we lost all of that. And I never thought we were going to get it back. But we have in spades. And we're, 20 years older and with a few more lumps, bumps, wrinkles, all of those sorts of things. And it's just getting better and better. And one of the reasons for that is I know the difference between an expectation and truth. I know the difference. And so when you clearly know the difference, resentment falls away when things don't go the way you would like them to, or when you, as I call, your human would like them to, right? They don't go that way, or where you're looking down a pathway where it looks like there's a lot of difference and there's a lot of gap, right? I don't have resentment around that. And I used to be full of it. I used to be full of resentment. I used to be full of self-righteous. I used to have all the reasons under the sun why I was right. And I would defend those, and so many of us do, and I would justify them. But the problem is when you get caught up in, how would I describe that? When you get caught up in that reality, things quickly go south and it looks like there isn't a way forward, or it looks like the only way forward is if the other person were to change. Now, I really want you to know there can be a whole different way to approach this. A completely different way to approach this. It's not about the other person changing, and it's not about you having to compromise who you are either, because that's the other thing, right? It's like, well, if I let go of the person needing to change, then it looks like I've got to pretend that something doesn't matter to me. Yeah. Or it looks like I've got to compromise who I am, or it looks like I've got to let go of things that matter. I promise you they're not the only choices available to us. There's all this stuff in between those two extremes, right? There's all this stuff in between. And all this stuff in between is the gold. All this stuff in between, which is insights, layers of understanding of how human beings work, a capacity to see through thought itself, because thought is the greatest con artist on earth, a capacity to look at someone with completely fresh eyes. And truly, I know that is possible. I've been able to do that with my husband. My relatable students do this all the time. My clients, etc. I can give you hundreds and hundreds of examples of where people are able to do that. Is actually look at something with fresh eyes. Look at someone with fresh eyes. Look at a relationship with fresh eyes. Look at yourself with fresh eyes. Okay. And when I say fresh eyes, I don't mean a grayed out version of something. I mean seeing something in a completely new and different way. And you don't know what anything is capable of until you've been able to do that. You don't know what a relationship is capable of. You don't know what you're capable of. You don't know what you're capable of experiencing until you bring completely fresh eyes to something. Now, I'm just going to do a bit of a check-in. Love the way that you guys are all chatting to each other here. Hi, Susan. So lovely to have you here, honey. And I'm so glad to hear that you're loving my Relatable program. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really, really appreciate it. Brian, it's life-changing, that's for sure. I have a better relationship now with my ex than we ever had when we were together. Teamwork makes the dream work, even when the way the team changes how it works. Yeah, for sure. Relatable. Brian has done my Relatable program, and so that's what he's referring to. So thanks for sharing that, Brian. Really appreciate it. That's right. There is a whole other way of approaching this. So if I come back to this question that's been asked, which I think is a great question, a question we can all relate to. What do I do about this thing that looks so different to what I imagined? How do I handle that, right? Which is essentially what this question is. First of all, you've got to know the difference between an opinion and truth, which I've just explained. So if you've just logged on, go back and listen to the recording, because I think that's a really, really powerful distinction. When you know the difference between an opinion and truth, you are now no longer locked into a reality. Your reality becomes a lot more fluid. Now, a fluid reality creates a very different experience of something. It creates a fresh new experience of something. So, for example, I want to give you a bit more of a detailed example. I want to give you an example of my husband and myself, okay? And I'm just going to give you a simple one, all right? Simplicity is always going to be the key. But so I had this expectation when my husband and I first got together that I never saw as an expectation, by the way. I just saw it as a need of mine, actually, a need. That that we would approach life in the same way, meaning, you know, I'm someone who likes to get things done. I'm someone who likes to, at times, someone who likes to get things done. I'm a doer at times. I can really be a doer, although I've changed my relationship with that over time because my husband's been a great teacher for me around that. And I just kind of thought I'd been kind of brought up in a family of doers, and I just thought that's the way people were. So my husband's very different. It's not that he's not a doer. He works really hard, and you know, he gets heaps of stuff done, but he does things at a different pace to me, and a different priority to me. And in the beginning, I could not understand that. I'm like, we've got to get this thing done. We're under this time frame. Why wouldn't you do that first? Is this making sense? Like in my mind, it's like you do it like this, and in his mind, you do it like this. So I had this expectation that he would kind of make decisions the way I do, and he would see life the way I did. And it never occurred to me that he did not see life the way that I did, that we lived in separate realities, and that neither one was right or wrong or better or good. You know, they're just completely different. And that it's not that his was less important than mine or mine was more important than his. It was just the way we were viewing the world. We also had different expectations. And it's not that my expectations were right or his expectations were wrong. It wasn't even about that. It was just that he saw things in a different way, prioritized things in a different way, and to what I did. And when I realized that it's not that one was better than another or more right than another, it's not that mine were more important than his. This is all egoic mind thinking. It was just me understanding how we create our reality, and we all create our reality the same way. And it was me, and that is what enabled me to step inside my husband's reality and have a conversation for him from that place, look around, understand it, and then come back into mine. And I found when I was able to do that, my expectations changed. My understanding shifted. I didn't have the resentment. It just fell away. I would just look and go, oh, okay, he's just doing what makes sense to him. I'll go do what makes sense to me, and we'll meet up after that. All the resentment, all the justification, all the anger, all the frustration just fell away. Now, when these things fall away, what's left is this deeper connected feeling. This deeper connected feeling. I cannot tell you how beautiful it is to show up to another human being without all that noise going through your head. I had not known that was even possible. I didn't even know I had that noise. To me, that was just the way things are. It's the way things are. This is truth. And I'm like, no, it's not. Now I know the difference between an opinion and truth, right? I was able to catch myself and go, that's not truth, Fiona. That's your opinion. And just because that's your opinion doesn't make it the opinion, doesn't make it the best opinion or the right opinion. It's just an opinion. And opinions are unlimited. Okay? The minute we decide that ours is better than another, you have a slippery slope down. You have a slippery slope down. A very slippery slope, because it becomes about justifying, becomes about defending, becomes about judgment, and you get caught up in your ego mind. And then from there, our capacity to listen. From there, our capacity to let go. From there, our capacity to generate anything else disappears. It's quite amazing what happens when something that once looks really important to you suddenly just falls off. Like just falls off, disappears. Like I now no longer care. I really don't. I don't care at the pace at which things get done. I don't care what my husband does or doesn't priority. I don't have any thinking about it. And so, of course, what does that leave room for? It leaves room for a deeper feeling of connection. And when there's a deeper feeling of connection, guess what starts to happen quite naturally and organically? People start becoming a lot more generous of mind, heart, and spirit. We do, because that's our natural state. People become a lot more generous of mind, heart, and spirit naturally. okay? And when we become generous of mind, heart, and spirit naturally, guess what happens? Guess what happens when people become more generous of mind, heart, and spirit naturally without feeling like they're being forced into a corner, without feeling like they have to compromise who they are, without feeling like they have no voice, without feeling controlled, which is how it generally works, right? When people feel that way naturally, guess what happens? Would they get access to thinking they've never had before? It starts naturally occurring to them. Oh, maybe so-and-so needs X, or maybe I will just offer this, or like they start to naturally become more in tune, naturally. It's amazing. And as we become more in tune naturally, this is where the easy, effortless nature of relationships really starts to kick in. I am not working hard to be in tune with my husband. I used to think that I had to, not at all, because all I was consumed with was our differences, and I thought that our differences were this major blockage, and that we couldn't become close until they had been overcome. And of course, all that did was have me become more rigid in my opinions and my expectations and all of those sorts of things. I became more and more or I became less and less flexible around that. And I spent more and more time in a dissatisfied feeling. I cannot tell you how many people are living in a high level of dissatisfied feeling and they don't even know it. And they think that that dissatisfied feeling is coming from the other person, right? And so every time someone does something that looks like that kind of reiterates it, that dissatisfied feeling becomes more and more and more concrete until it then looks like this is just the way things are. And then people feel like it's too late, we've come too far, there's nowhere we can move, nowhere we can change, nothing can be done. So then we separate and the relationship breaks down. I just want to check in. Is this making sense to you guys? Do you have any questions about this? I know I am speaking in a high chunk, so I just want to check in. If anyone's got any questions around what I'm saying, let me know. Hi, Mick. Hello. Nice to see you here. Hi, Michelle. You're watching from Balgowan, SA on the York Peninsula. Wow, sounds amazing. You're always traveling around somewhere, Michelle. I love that. Definitely something that now that we've seen, you know, I've been to Broome in recent weeks and now Uluru and all those places. I'm like, I just want to see more of it. Australia has the most amazing places to visit and see. Hey, Bronwyn, nice to see you, honey. Peter. Hi, Peter. Realizing each of us have a different reality was a game changer for me. I discovered I wasn't always right. Who would have thought? Yes, it's a great. It's a game changer for us all, Peter, isn't it? I really appreciated realizing I'm not right as well. I love knowing that. In fact, it's so freeing. There's no longer anything for me to defend anymore. Did you know how much bandwidth that takes up? When we feel like we've got to defend ourselves, we've got to defend our reality, defend our position, and justify it and explain it, and it's exhausting. And it's exhausting, and it diminishes the level of connection and the amount of feeling that's available on offer. I cannot tell you things that look so important. When you understand the way thought works, you actually laugh and go, I can't believe I ever thought about that. I can't believe I used to worry about that. I can't believe that was even a thing for me. I mean, many of you know with my husband and I that I had this idea in my head that, you know, we would, when we first got married, that I'd meet this person, we'd kind of lie in bed together or lie on the couch together or whatever, and we'd read and we'd have these really amazing conversations. I just laugh now when I think about it. Like, that was such a huge thing for me. I know that sounds silly, right? But I'm just trying to give you an idea of this was such a big thing for me that my husband would needed to read, and that we would have these really lovely intellectual conversations. And of course, my husband's a musician. Sorry, us Aussies shorten everything, and he got everything he needed from the lyrics of music, right? Listening to music. And I kind of arrogantly got it into my head that that because he didn't read, that we weren't equals intellectually. And I'm not proud of even saying that. And of course, that dissatisfaction started to seep into everything. And of course, I find that hilarious now. And I look back at my own level of arrogance around that. I went, who are you, Fiona, to say that the only way we can learn, grow, and get what we need is by reading? There are a million ways in which we do that. We do it through music. I mean, how beautiful is music? Music moves people. It unites people. We do it through insights and fresh thinking, which people are getting all the time. That's what we're designed for. We're hardwired for. We get it through passing conversation. We get it. I mean, there's just so many ways in we get that. And I see this in my husband. I see this in everybody. I find it hilarious that I was so caught up in that stuff. So, all this rigid thinking that I used to have around things has meant that I've got so much more emotional freedom. In turn, I'm going to come back to the question that this lady asked. I think it's, in many ways, it's a wonderful thing when someone is wanting to improve themselves, okay? And to I guess be a better person. I think that's wonderful. Now I realize that we can overindulge and it can go too far, right? I get that. But sometimes the only way to kind of shift that or change that is to step inside another person's reality, really look around that. Now you can't do that when you're married to your opinion. You can't do that when it looks like you're 100% right? And it looks like something's missing. You've got to be able to put that down. Now, the way you do that is by understanding how we create a reality, how thought works. That it becomes easier and easier when you do that. You step inside that reality and you look inside and you say, and you become curious. I can see that this really matters to you. What do you get from that? What kind of a difference does that make to your life? How do you feel when you do that? And again, not in a third degree way, but in a curious, lighthearted way. So you're getting to know what truly matters to someone and you're speaking to that. People struggle with this. They struggle with it because people are so married to their own reality, right? But when you are not so married to your reality, it gives you this superpower to be able to step inside someone else's and have a completely different conversation that generates compassion, understanding, awareness, connection, love, playfulness. It truly does. You would be amazed at what's possible when we do that, because it also creates emotional safety, and it means that the other person feels safer to let their guard down. And when they let their guard down, I want to come back to what I said earlier, we come back to that natural loving state that we all have access to. And then people are kinder, they're more generous, they're more open-hearted. They're more likely to put down their justification and then connect with you at where you're at. This is what's possible for someone to generate. Hey, Lisa, just tuning in, and what you're saying is on point for me. Can't wait to go back and watch the beginning. Lol. You're welcome, Lisa. Thanks for that. Really appreciate it, honey. And anyone else who's listening, if you've got a question or you want me to clarify on something that I've just said, please let me know. The other thing I want to say is that my book, and I am writing a book, it's coming out soon. I don't have the exact launch date yet, but I'm really, really hopeful that it will be somewhere between the end of November and Christmas. That's coming out soon, so I will give you all the details of that. I'm really, really excited to be sharing that with you. This has been a labor of love in many, many ways, and I hope comes across as like a big love letter to you all. That's kind of I guess that's the feeling I want to imbue. Is that the word? Imbue to you guys, convey to you guys that this is a love letter to you all that I hope when you read puts you in a frame of mind where you start to put down you start to see and put down your own rigid thinking, your own rigid opinions, beliefs, about life, about people, about how things should be, your expectations, and that gives you a capacity to step into something else. I wish my one joy wish for everybody is that everybody gets a chance to see that for themselves. I was so grateful that I was given a chance to see it for me, and it's just become the reason why I do everything that I do, because that's what will change the world. There is only one thing that's going to change the world, and that's human beings who are able to step outside the limitations of their own thinking, to get to know themselves and others outside of those, to see through them and generate more love in the world. That's just how it works. Might sound corny, might sound far-fetched, might sound whatever, but that is just what's fundamentally true, and that's what's going to make a difference. And everything that I do is about that, pointing you in that direction. You can't look in that direction when you're married to your thinking, when you're married to your opinions, when you think your way is the only way. You just can't. It's impossible. Thanks, Peter. Yes, you can get a signed copy, Mick. Absolutely, you can get a signed copy, 100%, for sure. So I hope that this has been helpful to you guys. Please, I'd love to know what resonated. Pop it in the comments below. What didn't resonate, how I could expand on that more for you, what questions you have, because you definitely will have questions around what I've just shared. I know that. So pop them in the comments below, and I will certainly make sure they are addressed next Friday live. And if you have a question that you want to ask me, you can send it to hello@fionalukeis.com.au as always. And if you would like to know about my Relatable program, where we talk about all of this and then some, and as you can see, there are a number of Relatable students here on the live today, which I always appreciate your support, guys. You can book a chat with me here and find out more about Relatable, how you can be a part of our Relatable family and join this amazing community, and learn this for yourself, bring it into your life, and then bring it into the lives of the people that you love and care about. So you can book that in through the link below in the comments. If you're listening on, or if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you should be able to see that in the comments. Thank you, everybody, for your support, for your comments. I really appreciate it. Sending you all lots and lots of love, and I will see you next Friday. Thanks, Lisa Honey. Really appreciate it. Lots of love, everyone. See you next week. Take care now. Ciao.